All right, why do we make excuses? We make excuses to justify something that we did or did not do. We've been making excuses since God created Adam and Eve. In Genesis 3, it talks about the fall of Adam and Eve. Eve took the apple, and then Adam did. And after Adam took the bite, God came to them. And what was Adam's excuse? That woman you put me with? It's her fault. I know me. This is paraphrasing, of course. But do you think God was okay with that? Oh, the woman's fault? Oh, seems legit. You're good. No, they sinned, and God banished them from the most beautiful place on earth. Don't we do this all the time, though? Make excuses to God. Oh, I can't tithe because we just can't afford it. Well, maybe if you did tithe, you could afford it. Or maybe you just say, I'm just too busy with God or life right now. God, you want to go sit in the corner while I figure things out? No, God is here to help you figure things out. And I don't know, this one is my personal favorite that people use. I am just so tired right now. We'll just go to church next week, and then the week after that, and the week after that. Oh, drink some coffee, get out of bed, and get yourself to church, please. Now I know, every time we make one of these excuses, we push God further and further away. Now I know there are legitimate excuses like, oh, maybe you couldn't make it to church because you got abducted by aliens or something like that. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today, we're talking about excuses that can affect our walk with God. This second story isn't from the Bible, but it's very eye-opening. This story is about two brothers. One brother was a drug addict and an alcoholic. The next brother was a professional athlete. Both of these brothers were interviewed. They asked the first brother, why did you turn out the way you did? He said, because I grew up in a troubled home. My mom was a drug addict and an alcoholic, so I became that way too. They asked the next brother the same exact question. And he answered, because my mom was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and I didn't want that for my life. Now, you could be like either of the two brothers. You could be like the first brother who said, I've done all this stuff and God can't use me. Or you could be like the second brother who rose out of the ashes he was born into and didn't make any excuses for being that way. So, if you follow God and let him do something amazing with your life, he will. Take the story of Abraham and Isaac. Genesis 22:2 says this. Then God said, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. Abraham did as God requested. In verse 12, he said, do not lay a hand on that boy. Don't do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God because you have not withheld him from me, your son, your only son. Later in verse 17-18, God says, I will surely bless you and your descendants and make them as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring, all nations on the earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me. Now Abraham could have said, God, I can't sacrifice him. He is my only son. But Abraham trusted in God, and what was the result? God delivered something amazing. He'll do the same in our lives if we stop making excuses for things he wants us to do. The next time you decide to make an excuse for something you're supposed to do, remember this. Jesus was beaten, whipped, and hung on a cross because that was God's plan. During this, in Luke 23:34, he said to God, forgive them, they know not what they do. What's your excuse? Thank you.